GM just made their biggest mistake yet, and this could be the end for them. They're already struggling with their sales, especially on their EVs, where they just dump cash and get nothing in return. This adds to all the things that have been making GM's reputation take hit after hit. GM's racing toward an electric future, but they might just be leaving their present in the dust. It is going to hurt them in the end. It has already started. Let me break it down for you. What is happening? Ever heard of the $86 million recall? Well, that's pocket change compared to the billions GM's been burning through lately. It is insane, especially this Takata airbag fiasco. This isn't just any recall, it's the mother of all recalls, affecting millions of cars across different brands. GM's been caught up in this mess and it's been a wild ride. Imagine it's August 2023 and GM drops a bombshell. They're recalling cars in the US and Canada. Why? Because their airbags might decide to throw a deadly confetti party in your face. We're talking about Chevy Camaros, Sonics, Volts, and Buick Veranos. All of them come with a faulty driver's front airbag inflator that could just go boom. Not exactly the kind of surprise you want on your daily commute, right? But hold on, this Takata drama isn't new. It's been the blockbuster hit of the automotive world for years. How big are we talking? Try 67 million inflators recalled in the US alone. That's more than the population of Italy. The villain in this story? Ammonium nitrate, the same stuff used in some explosives. Turns out it's not a great idea to put that in something that's supposed to save your life. This mess has caused deaths, injuries, and even drove Takata into bankruptcy. GM's been recalling millions of cars with these ticking time bombs, and it's been a PR nightmare. What are the consequences? People don't trust them anymore. And let's even talk about their EVs, their supposed big dream, or should we say nightmares. Just look at the Chevy Bolt, GM's answer to the EV revolution. It sounds great on paper, but it's like gold in the sky. It looks shiny, but it is not practical. And even on those models, GM's had to hit the recall bottom multiple times for the Bolt, and it's not because the cup holders were too small. No, we're talking about battery fire issues. Imagine telling tens of thousands of Bolt owners, hey, you know that expensive new car you bought? Yeah, don't park it in your garage, or near your house, or anything you'd like that isn't fireproof. That is more than inconvenient. These Bolt recalls haven't just caused a headache for GM, they've been a full-blown nightmare. We're talking major costs and a serious dent in consumer trust. After all, who wants to drive a car that might spontaneously turn into a very expensive bonfire? And here's the silver lining. These recalls, as frustrating as they are, show that automakers are eventually taking responsibility for their mistakes. It's better to deal with the hassle of a recall than to risk your safety, right? But is it good enough? Remember when GM was the cool kid on the block, churning out cars that made your neighbors green with envy? Yeah, those were the days, back in the 80s and 90s, when GM was killing it with their top-notch manufacturing and quality that would make your grandma proud. So what's the deal? How did GM go from hero to zero? Why is this happening? First up, we've got the classic case of quantity over quality. Imagine if your favorite pizza joint started caring more about how many pizzas they could slap out than how good they taste. That's basically what GM did. They were all about pumping out cars fast. There were even memos from the 90s that basically hinted at saying, just ship it, we'll fix it later. Spoiler alert, they didn't always fix it later. And let's talk about GM's more is more philosophy. They started offering so many models and options, which sounds great in theory, right? Wrong. It was like walking into a candy store with a toothache. All those choices led to a mess of complexity and quality issues. Sometimes less really is more, GM. And speaking of focus, GM seems to have lost theirs. They're all over the place with their brands, models, and market segments. It's like they're trying to be everything to everyone, and we all know how that usually ends up. And you know that colleague who always points fingers when things go wrong? Well, GM became that guy. Instead of looking in the mirror when quality took a nosedive, they pointed at their workers. Talk about a motivation killer. Would you want to give 110% if your boss kept saying it was all your fault? To top it all off, GM's facing stiff competition. We're talking about scrappy Chinese automakers and the electric wonderkind Tesla. These new kids on the block are stealing the spotlight and making GM look like yesterday's news. But they have got a plan. We need to talk about the details, so let's. The blueprint. Ever wondered how a century-old car company plans to take on the EV golden boy Tesla? Well, first off, let's talk about GM's big electric dreams. Barra's not just dipping her toes in the EV pool, she's going full cannonball. She's committed to turning GM into an all-electric automaker. That's right, folks, those gas-guzzling engines are heading for retirement. And you might be thinking, how's GM going to pull this off? They're planning to launch a whopping 30 new electric models by 2025. We're talking about everything from the beastly GMC Hummer EV to the sleek Cadillac Lyriq. And get this, they're even working on an electric crossover that'll only set you back about 30 grand. That's like getting a slice of the future for the price of a really fancy toaster. And let's talk numbers, because GM's aiming to churn out 400,000 EVs by mid-2024 and a cool million by 2025. That's more cars than there are people in San Francisco. To make this happen, they're building battery plants fast in Ohio, Tennessee, and Michigan. It's like they're creating their own EV empire. But let's talk about you, the customer. Barra knows that you're not just looking for a car that goes vroom. You want something reliable that won't leave you stranded with a dead battery in the middle of nowhere. That's why GM's investing big bucks in charging networks and battery production. They're basically trying to make owning an EV as easy as owning a smartphone, minus the constant software updates, hopefully. And remember how your parents told you to never team up with your enemy? Well, GM's throwing that advice out the window. In a plot twist, they've partnered up with Tesla to improve charging infrastructure. That means GM drivers will soon be able to charge up at Tesla stations. But GM's not stopping there. They're open to teaming up with other car makers too. It's like they're creating the Avengers of the auto world, joining forces to save themselves. Barra's so confident in GM's EV game plan that she thinks they can overtake Tesla in US EV sales by 2025. That's like saying you're going to out-pizza the Hut or out-burger the King. Bold move, Mary. Especially considering how their plan has been facing a lot of setbacks recently. The first downfall. Ever heard of an EV that's both affordable and controversial? Enter the Chevy Bolt, GM's electric darling that's been on quite the rollercoaster ride. The Bolt burst onto the scene as America's cheapest EV, promising an eco-friendly future without breaking the bank. It quickly became GM's best-selling electric vehicle, making up a whopping 95% of their EV sales. Talk about a fan favorite. People were excitedly snapping up Bolts, proudly embracing their eco-conscious rides while still keeping their wallets happy. But here's where things get spicy. Despite its popularity, GM decided to pull the plug on the Bolt. Analysts pointed out that the Bolt, while incredibly appealing on paper, simply didn't bring the profit margins GM craved. The reality of EV production costs and competitive pricing quickly turned into a troublesome balancing act for the automaker. Plus, the Bolt's journey wasn't all smooth sailing. Remember those battery fire risks we were talking about? Yeah, that led to some pretty hefty recalls, putting a dent in the Bolt reputation. To put things into perspective, GM had to recall thousands of Bolts due to battery issues, with the situation escalating to the point where they even offered complimentary battery replacements to affected owners. But like a phoenix rising from the ashes, the Bolt bounced back, attracting new customers to the GM family. In fact, a remarkable 75% of Bolt owners were new to GM. Talk about a silver lining in a storm of controversy. But that was not enough to stop them discontinuing the Bolt. Why? It all boils down to cold hard cash. Even with recent price cuts boosting sales, GM was losing money on every Bolt that rolled off the lot. So what's next for Bolt owners and fans? GM's promising an electric Equinox to fill the void. With the Equinox expected to launch with a variety of appealing features and capabilities, it aims to capture the same affordability and charm that made the Bolt a hit. But will it have that same magical touch? That's the million-dollar question. Early speculations around the Equinox suggest it may come with a slightly higher price tag, potentially alienating some of the Bolt's budget-conscious fans. But now GM's got its sights set on bigger fish. They're betting big on their next-gen EVs built on the fancy new Ultium architecture. This game-changing platform is designed to streamline production and improve efficiency, paving the way for a range of new electric models that can better compete in the rapidly evolving market. The ambitious goal? 1 million EVs in North America by 2025 with single-digit profit margins. It's clear that GM is planning a future where they can not only keep up but set the price. And here's the thing, the Bolt's demise isn't just about numbers, it's a symbol of GM's shifting priorities. They're trading in their current success for a gamble on future tech, seeking to capture the market with innovative designs and state-of-the-art features. Will it pay off? Well, only time will tell. The commitment to future models raised a few eyebrows, especially among loyal Bolt enthusiasts who felt a tinge of betrayal. But it seems like they have no other options. Let me explain. Wars and scars. Have you ever asked yourself, what's the deal with all these price cuts we're seeing? Well, it's like a game of high-stakes poker and everyone's trying to bluff their way to the top. Tesla, the reigning champ of the EV world, decided to shake things up by slashing their prices by a whopping 20% earlier this year. Can you believe it? That's like finding out your favorite designer bag just went on a massive sale. But here's where it gets interesting. Ford wasn't about to sit back and watch Tesla steal the show. No, they jumped right in and cut prices on their sleek Mustang Mach-E. It's like watching a ping-pong match, but instead of balls, they're bouncing price tags back and forth. Now you might be wondering, what's the big deal? Lower prices sound great. And you're not wrong, but there's a catch. All these price cuts are making car markets sweat about their profit margins. It's like trying to lose weight while still enjoying your favorite desserts. Something's got to give. But why are they doing this? Well, it's not just for fun. There's a whole bunch of reasons, and one of them is that everyone wants a bigger slice of the EV pie. Plus, new models are popping up fast. It's like Fashion Week for cars. People are itching for more affordable EVs, and let's face it, not everyone can drop a fortune on a fancy electric ride. The economy's been doing its best roller coaster impression, and with interest rates climbing, people are getting pickier about where they spend their hard-earned cash. So what does all this mean for General Motors? Well, they're in a bit of a pickle. It's like showing up to a water balloon fight with a squirt gun. They need to step up their game fast. GM's been working hard on their EV lineup, but now they're facing some tough choices. Do they join the price-cutting party and risk their profits, or do they stick to their guns and potentially lose customers to cheaper options? It's not just about the price tags though. GM's got to think about their whole strategy. They need to make sure their EVs are not just affordable, but also irresistible. We're talking features that'll make you go wow, and performance that'll leave you speechless. And let's not forget about production. GM needs to ramp things up to keep costs down and stay competitive. It's like trying to bake enough cookies for the whole neighborhood. You need a big oven and a lot of dough. So what can they do? While Tesla and Ford are having a price-cutting party, Barra is standing firm saying, "Thanks, but no thanks," to the whole price war shindig. Now you might be thinking, is she crazy? Everyone's dropping prices. But hold your horses, Barra's got a plan, and it's all about playing it cool. She's confident that GM's prices are just right for what people want. It's like when you find that perfect pair of jeans. You don't need to go bargain hunting because you know they're worth every penny. But although this is how she feels, GM isn't completely ignoring the price game. They're just playing it smart, like a chess master making subtle moves. Take the Chevrolet Blazer EV for example. They've trimmed the price by a cool $6,000. It's not a drastic cut, but it's enough to make you go, "That's interesting." And get this, GM's got their sights set on the everyday EV buyer. Just like we told you, they want to replace the Bolt's video with the Chevrolet Equinox EV, aiming to price it around $35,000. They're not quite hitting the under $30,000 mark that some competitors are eyeing, but they're getting pretty darn close. The big question is, will this strategy pay off? Can GM keep its prices steady while still luring in customers? What's GM's secret sauce? Well, GM's got this thing called the Ultium battery platform. It sounds fancy, right? Well, it is. They're pouring resources into this bad boy to make their EVs perform better and cost less to produce. It's like upgrading your smartphone's processor. You get more bang for your buck without emptying your wallet. It's all about value and quality, baby. Instead of getting into a price-slashing frenzy, they're focusing on making cars so good you can't resist them. It's like when you splurge on that fancy coffee maker because you know it'll give you the best cup of joe every single morning. But they're also diversifying, and I'm not talking about the way they're just bombarding their customers with lots of options. They don't really have specific solutions to bring to the table. I'm talking about a new era for GM. New engines. They have an engine so groundbreaking, it might just leave electric vehicles in the dust. How? Well, GM's latest creation runs on something we all take for granted – air. That's right, the stuff you're breathing right now could be powering your next ride. It's like GM looked at the sky and thought, why not use that? The best part? This new engine works similarly to our old internal combustion engines, so we won't need to relearn that many things. So how does this magical air-powered engine work? It's all about compression. The engine sucks in air, squeezes it tight, and then releases that compressed air to push a piston, creating motion. It's like letting go of a balloon you've been holding, all that pent-up energy just waiting to burst out. And the engine keeps cycling, providing continuous motion as long as there's air available. Now, you might be wondering, how is this better than EVs? Well, for starters, say goodbye to those long charging times. This air-powered wonder refills in minutes, just like filling up your gas tank now. It's cheaper to produce and maintain with no need for expensive batteries or rare earth metals. Plus, it's green from start to finish, unlike EVs, which can have a dirty production process. But GM isn't stopping there. They're using high-tech materials and turbocharging to ensure their engine can keep up with and maybe even outrun its electric competitors. And the best part? This technology could potentially work with existing refueling stations, making the transition smoother than ever. For GM, this isn't just about making a cool new toy, it's about survival. They've been struggling to keep up in the EV race, and this air-powered engine could be their chance to leap ahead of the competition and redefine clean driving. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.